My name is Luca, and my wife's name is Jane. We've been married for about 3 years. Jane is, and we go way back to high school when we started as friends and then realized we had feelings for each other. We eventually became a couple. I caught my wife cheating on me with my boss, James. I'm completely blindsided by it. It's a very rough situation, and I'm here seeking advice and insights on how to navigate through this mess. As I've said before, Jane and I go way back. We were high school sweethearts. We were the kind of couple everyone thought would last forever. I believed it too. Of course, we had our fair share of ups and downs. Like any couple, we always managed to work through them. Or at least that's what I thought. Things have been a bit rocky between us. We argued more often, and there was this distance between us that I couldn't quite explain. There was even no sex or intimacy. It wasn't just the lack of intimacy, although that was definitely a red flag. It was the growing sense of disconnect, like we were two strangers living under the same roof. Trying to pinpoint the exact cause of it would be a challenge. Things have been pretty crazy lately, but there have been a few incidents that cause a lot of issues between us. First of all, Jane works in cybersecurity. It's a stressful job, but the pay is good. I'm paid well enough to take care of all the bills in the house without it affecting my savings. Instead of appreciating this, Jane seemed. I'd always noticed that Jane was a bit lazy. I first noticed it way back in high school, but I was in love. In college, I worked hard, honed my skills, and prepared for a successful career. I come from a wealthy family. I've literally had everything handed to me since birth, which I didn't like very much. I wanted to break away from my family and build myself a career. I've always been motivated by the fact that I was the kid who always had to rely on my parents for something. That's something that has fueled me for a very long time. Jane also capitalized on this, saying even back then in college that she wouldn't put all her effort into college because I was putting in effort for both of us. She said that my wins were her wins, so anything I benefited from was essentially hers. It's a romantic idea, but now I realize it's a bit silly. She barely graduated, in fact, barely graduated at all, and that was only because I had to help her on a lot of projects because I genuinely did not want her to get held back or not graduate. Then, after that, she refused to get a job. She even still refuses to get a job now. At first, she would say that it was a man's role to provide for his family. Jane insisted on being a stay. At the time, I was working on a project with Jane. She wanted to be a stay-at-home wife. Whenever I suggested she get a job, it was a real challenge. Then, about a year ago, she suddenly got into content creation. She said YouTube and content creation were the new big thing, and that she had it in her to be an influencer. I encouraged and supported her. But after a year, it became pretty clear that she wasn't making much progress. I didn't want to be the one to put her down, so I didn't say much about it on a few occasions. I even mentioned that she would get angry with me and accuse me of not believing in her or trying to control her life. She said I didn't believe in her and that I should believe in her because her big break was coming. It was pretty frustrating to say the least. I'm the one carrying the financial burden of our household while she pursues these dreams that seem more like fantasies. It's not just about the money. It's about feeling like I'm shouldering everything while she contributes little to nothing. It's about feeling like I'm not being appreciated for all the hard work I put in. I put a lot of work in, but I never thought she would cheat on me. That's a whole different level of betrayal. So, how did Jane end up meeting my boss? It's a bit of a tangled tale. I never expected it to unfold the way it did. I thought about it a lot. I should have seen the signs. Jane kept talking on my boss, mentioning him more frequently and praising his work ethic and leadership skills, but I never thought much of it. There was nothing about my boss that I never thought Jane would cheat on me. It all happened at our company's annual dinner. I decided to take Jane as my date, thinking it would be a nice evening out together. I had no idea how wrong I was. At the dinner, Jane had the chance to meet my boss. Let me be clear, my boss and I have never been the best of friends. We've always maintained a neutral professional relationship, neither close nor antagonistic. However, I do get along with his wife, who happens to be my boss's boss since her father. He owns the company, but his wife is the real powerhouse. It's not just because her father owns the business. It's also because of her sharp mind and strategic acumen. We've always had a good relationship. We chat and discuss work. I must admit I've always felt a bit uneasy about my friendship with my boss's wife. It's not because there's anything inappropriate about it. It's because I sense a hint of jealousy from my boss. Perhaps he saw my friendship with his wife as a threat. Or maybe he was just a jealous husband. That would be weird. She's rarely in the company, except for occasional visits to oversee things. So there we were at the dinner. Jane was meeting my boss, and probably sensing some tension between us, though she brushed it off. I noticed how Jane's eyes lit up at the sight of him. As the night went on, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. I had this uneasy feeling, and it was clear that Jane was really interested in my boss. She was engaged in the conversation and seemed drawn to him in a way that made me uneasy. I noticed how her eyes lingered on him a little too long, and how she laughed a bit too eagerly at his jokes. I was really uneasy. It felt like there was an invisible connection forming in front of me. Looking back, I wish I had paid more attention to those gut feelings. Maybe then I could have avoided the heartache and betrayal that followed after that company dinner. I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was off. How could I have missed it? Was it possible that Jane somehow exchanged numbers with my boss that night? Or maybe he found her on social media and reached out to her. Things have been getting a bit tense between Jane and me. We had this ongoing argument about her job situation. She was using content creation as an excuse for everything. She wasn't doing chores or taking responsibility for her actions. It was frustrating because I felt like she was avoiding taking responsibility. If there were dishes to be done or chores to be done, it was always because she was busy creating content. The first red flag popped up about a week after the dinner. Jane suddenly became glued to her phone even more than usual. She was always on her phone due to her content creation gig. This was different. She was texting none. She started smiling at her phone like it held all the secrets of the universe. She also became super protective of her phone, changing passwords and all that. It was odd because we'd always been open about these things before. Normally, this behavior would scream cheating spouse, but my brain didn't go there initially. Looking back, I should have seen it coming, but hindsight is always THS. I should have. I recognized these as classic signs of infidelity, but my mind wouldn't accept it. I trusted her and believed in our relationship, so I couldn't imagine her betraying that trust. I was wrong. Things started getting even weirder when Jane began leaving the house more often. I didn't pay much attention to it until I checked her location randomly. I normally don't do this because I believe in respecting privacy, but my gut feeling told me something was wrong. I had a gut feeling that something was wrong, and I needed to understand what was going on. As it turned out, she wasn't at home that day or the next. She was popping up in random places like restaurants, bars, arcades, and shopping malls. This behavior was totally out of character for Jane. She was a homebody who never really ventured out unless it was necessary. Plus, her friends had all distanced themselves from her, so it wasn't like she had a social life outside of the house. I started to notice that Jane wasn't spending much time at home. She was going out a lot and buying new clothes, which I didn't think was normal. I asked her about it, and she told me it was for work. I didn't believe her, but I let it go. I even congratulated her on her supposed success at the time. I had no idea that all those times she was out and about she was with my boss. He was the one showering her with gifts, including those new clothes. It was a real shock when I finally connected the dots. Looking back, there were times when I almost caught my wife and my boss red-handed. It's crazy to think that it took a random coincidence like me forgetting my jacket for the truth to come out that my wife had been cheating on me. I wrapped up work about an hour earlier than usual, so I texted my wife saying, "Hey, I'm on my way home." When I got home, I noticed something. I thought it was odd that she was breathing heavily and seemed flustered, as though she'd been caught doing something. I didn't think she was cheating, but I was wrong. I know it sounds dumb, but people reading this might think you were so blind. I admit it, but how did I finally catch them in the act? It all happened today, and I'm here on Reddit to vent because I don't want to break down or do anything stupid. It was freezing outside, just a normal cold day. I made breakfast since my wife said she was too tired to bother. No big deal. I'm used to it. I got dressed and ready for work, hopped in my car, and drove off. It was only when I realized I'd forgotten my jacket in the car park at work. I can't work without it because it's freezing and my heater's broken. I decided to head back home quickly. I'm usually early anyway, so it wouldn't make me late. I pulled up at our spot and saw a strange car in the driveway. I recognized it as my boss's, my boss's car. They look alike, but I never thought it could be his. I went inside to grab my jacket, not knowing what was about to happen. I stormed into the bedroom, and there she was on her knees with my boss, who was naked, and she was giving him a okay, so this is definitely not one of my shining moments, but let's be real here. I started recording them. I mean, come on, who wouldn't in that situation? By then, they had already clocked me. I don't think I need to describe the chaos that followed. Picture this. My boss scrambling to cover himself up. My wife was stunned into silence and just slumped there on the floor. She didn't faint. She was just shocked. I guess she never saw it coming. I saw this coming. And to be honest, neither did I. I had to get out of there. I felt a mix of anger, disbelief, and sadness, like a tornado of emotions swirling inside me. Part of me wanted to do all that, but that's not who I am, so I just walked out, got back into my car, and somehow drove to work. I don't even know how I made it. I've been in a daze all day. I'm barely getting through meetings during my lunch break. I'm here typing this out. I've been getting calls from my wife, but I haven't picked up. My boss hasn't shown his face at work yet, and I honestly don't know how I'm going to face either of them. I'm questioning everything. I'm trying to figure out if there's anything salvageable left in our relationship. I poured my heart out on Reddit seeking advice and clarity from strangers because I don't know what else to do. Update. I didn't expect such a huge response when I posted this on the subreddit. I know everyone says that, but I'm really grateful for the amount of DMs and comments I've received. There are just so many. I haven't been able to go through them all yet because there are so many. Thank you all so much. I'm really surprised by the number of comments and messages I've received in just a few hours. I'd like to take a moment to address some of the common themes in the responses. Many of you have advised me to get a lawyer, and I will definitely be doing that since I'll be going through a divorce. There's no forgiveness in sight when it comes to cheating. A lot of you also asked about my boss. To be honest, I don't think there's much I can do legally. I don't even think I can report him to HR, since this is a personal matter. Some of you suggested showing the video to his wife, which I might consider despite the risk of, if he finds out, he'll fire me. His wife is actually a nice person, and I think she'd listen. I had already anticipated that many of you would point out that I was pretty stupid to not notice all those red flags. I admit I was pretty stupid for not noticing the signs. I messed up big time. It's one of those situations where hindsight is THS, and now I can see everything. I can see all the red flags I missed. I should have been more attentive and aware of what was happening in my own relationship. It's a difficult thing to accept that I was blind to what was going on right under my nose. So I messed up, and I'm taking responsibility for it. Regarding why my wife would cheat with my boss, I met a couple of firstly. We made a vow to be faithful to each other. So her actions are baffling. I've never cheated on her, not even when we were dating. Secondly, let's just say my boss isn't exactly a model of attractiveness. He's balding, overweight with a massive pot belly, basically not someone you'd expect my wife to be interested in. Maybe she has. I don't know about some of the issues, but it's always puzzled me what his wife sees in him given that she's stunning and he's not. That's what I meant by her not being interested in my boss. I'm also grateful for all the supportive comments. It's really helping me process everything. I haven't contacted any family members yet, but that's next on my list. My wife has been calling and texting, but I haven't responded. I'll be asking her to leave our house. I haven't texted her yet because I want to make sure she doesn't take any of my belongings with her when she goes. I'll be there to oversee her moving out to ensure nothing of mine goes missing. It's been roughly hours since my last update, and wow, the support here has been overwhelming. I just wanted to express my gratitude for all the love and encouragement. I've now got some more updates. I did go through with kicking my wife out, although it was really tough when I got back. I was met with a shock. Everything was spotlessly clean. Dinner was made. My wife looked like she'd been crying. She apologized and begged for forgiveness, but I just couldn't forgive her like that. She cheated with my boss, and it felt ridiculous to even consider taking her back. So I gave her an ultimatum. She had 10 minutes to pack up and leave. She cried and begged, but I stood firm. I even mentioned calling the cops, although it was just a bluff. My house is legally her primary address, so calling the cops wouldn't have helped me kick her out immediately. It was a tough moment, but I couldn't bear the thought of living with someone who had betrayed me so deeply. She packed her things, and I made sure she didn't take any of our joint assets. I also kept the cars since I had purchased them. She said she had them. Nowhere to go, which was partly true as her family lived in another city. I didn't move from my position and told her to figure it out and showed her the door. As for my boss, he never ended up coming to work that day, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. I secured our joint account because I didn't want my wife spending my money and then called up my boss's wife. I asked her to meet me at the office tomorrow as I had something important to show her. Thankfully, she agreed. She seems to have understood. I didn't tell her what I wanted to talk to her about, though I did explain the situation. I haven't reached out to my family yet because I keep putting it off, but I plan to finally do so tonight. It's been a whirlwind of emotions going from married to facing divorce in what feels like the blink of an eye. I'll update you all again after I've spoken to my boss's wife and my family. Your support means everything during this challenging time. It's been a while, hasn't it? I know I said I'd update you the next day after meeting my boss's wife, but things got pretty intense pretty fast. Sorry for the delay, but here's the update. Firstly, I want to thank all of you who checked in on me during this time. Your support means the world to me. So let's dive into what happened after I met my boss's wife. My boss must have already known that he was in trouble, but maybe he thought that if he was nice or bribed me enough. I showed up at work the next day trying to be friendly with me, which was a joke considering our history. I ignored his attempts to play nice when his wife arrived. It was a whole different scene. She could tell something was up from the way he was acting. He tried to distract her and give me work, but she saw through it. She asked him to leave because we needed to talk privately. He looked like he was about to break down, begging with his eyes for mercy as he left. I showed his wife the video, and then I just couldn't speak. It was too much. She was shocked, confused, and disbelieving. She thanked me for showing her and asked for the video, which I sent to her straight away. I was kind of expecting her to fire me, but she didn't. She said I'd take a week off because I needed time to process everything. I was taken aback. I was grateful I packed my things and left the office without hesitation. I then went to the park and spent hours trying to make sense of it all. I called my family and briefed them on the situation. I told them not to let my wife in if she showed up. I also reached out to her family. They expressed shock and apologized. They told me they were going to get in touch with her and said I gave her money for a ticket back home, but I don't want to get involved anymore. I'm not going to lie, I don't care. I hung up as fast as I could. The rest of the week, I focused on myself. The house felt empty, so I thought about getting a pet for companionship. I'll update you all when something significant happens. That could be when my wife gets served, or when I return to work and find out what happened with my boss. I'm trying not to gossip or dwell too much on the drama, even though I'm really curious. It's been a rough week, but I'm taking it one step at a time. Update. I'd like to thank everyone for their kindness and support. I returned to work yesterday after my week off thanks to my boss's wife's understanding. As soon as I stepped into the office, I noticed something was off. My boss was nowhere to be seen and his office was vacant. I couldn't help but think, well, maybe he got what he deserved. I didn't waste any time. I approached a colleague, someone I wouldn't exactly call a friend, for the lowdown on what had happened. It turns out my boss had been mysteriously fired. I had to bite my lip to keep from laughing out loud. So now my boss is out of the picture. I forgot to update you all last night because I had planned to do so as soon as I got home, but it slipped my mind. I'm taking this lunch break to fill you in. It's pretty wild how quickly things can change. Things have been moving pretty fast. I haven't seen my boss's wife yet, but I'm looking forward to thanking her for taking swift action. I hope she's considering divorcing him because he's proven he doesn't deserve her. That's about it for now. I just wanted to keep you all in the loop because I know the curiosity has been killing you as much as it has been for me. Thanks again for all your support. Update, this is a mini update. I wanted to share that my wife was served with divorce papers. She went ballistic in my messages, which I expected. She'd been radio silent for about a week, probably because I wasn't responding to her messages or calls. I have no idea where she is or if her family followed through on buying her a plane ticket out of state. She's got a plane ticket out of state. She flooded my inbox with tons of messages, but I can't block her because I need to keep all the evidence for the divorce proceedings. She cursed me out, said I was wrong, and that I would regret it. I definitely won't regret getting rid of her manipulative, cheating presence in my life. On the other hand, I'm really grateful to my family for checking in on me occasionally. I think I'll wait a few more months, maybe until after the divorce is finalized. I've wanted a pet for a while, but my wife wasn't keen on it, so I held off. Now that she's no longer in the picture, I can finally pursue the things I've always wanted to do. I haven't reached out to her family because there's not much to discuss with them at the moment. I'm just taking it one step at a time and looking forward to a fresh start. It's been a wild ride dealing with everything that's happened, but there's one thing that's really been bugging me. I've been receiving some seriously weird messages from people suggesting that I get involved with my boss wife, or even sleep with her. This is real life. We're not in some Hollywood script or a soap opera. I want to be clear that this is not some Hollywood script, soap opera, or Bollywood movie. I'm not sexually attracted to my boss's wife. I thanked her for taking swift action regarding the situation, and we have developed a closer relationship because of it. However, I want to emphasize again that I have no intention or desire to sleep with her. We're on good terms as friends, but that's as far as it goes. So, to whoever is sending those messages, please stop. It's completely inappropriate and disrespectful. I'm dealing with a lot right now, and the last thing I need is to entertain such absurd suggestions. Let's keep things real and respectful here. Thanks, it's been quite a ride, and I owe you all an apology for not updating sooner. Life got in the way. I've been busy, and I'm sorry for the delay in posting this update. I just wanted to say thank you for all the kind messages I received when I logged back in. It was really heartwarming to see so many people care. I'll be sticking around here, but I won't be as active as I was before. So on to the update. My wife and I have officially divorced. I didn't end up sending her money for her flight ticket home. It turns out she had been homeless for a while before her family helped her out. I helped her out, but she kept asking me to take her back. I told her that was a long time ago. We went to court, and I won. She said I was cheating on her and made threats. There was plenty of evidence, but she got a bit of money. I don't think it will last long, though. I'm not worried about it anymore. As soon as I left the courtroom, I blocked her. On a different note, I did get that pet I wanted, a cute little cat. We've been getting to know each other, and it's been great. My family has been a great support through all of this, and I couldn't ask for better backing. I've also been recommended for a promotion, so there's something to look forward to. I'm taking some time out for myself. No dating plans in sight, just focusing on work, my cat, and rebuilding. Thanks for being part of this journey with me. It's wild to think how much has changed in just a few months.